Welcome to the Lodge. You've accessed
the Lodgecast experience.
Warning, warning, dangerous spoilers ahead. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Lodgecast. It is Easter Sunday, and we are on the tip top of a parking ramp outside the Burbank Media Center Mall. We're about to go to our favorite Burbank theater, the Media Center 8. I am joined today by Brother David Bishke.
Happy Easter to everyone.
And Brother Lucas is making a mad dash from Brentwood, supposedly. We told him not to risk life and limb to be here for today's movie, God's Not Dead 3, Light in Darkness. Is that what it's called?
A Light in the Darkness, I think.
Light in
and no 3. They're doing colons now. So it's like Star Trek Into Darkness, but this is God's Not Dead, in a light in dark. Into dark. No, in darkness. That's a light in the darkness.
That sounds great. Our very special guest today is Sister Emily Becklin from the Lodge.
Yay, happy Easter. I'm doing this for you guys.
She has chosen to martyr herself along with us. We're going to be going in. We're going to be going deep. Mr. Bishke, you have the most history with this film series. Emily and I, you got us hip to it for part 2. Did that one have a subtitle, or was it just God's Not Dead?
That was just God's Not Dead 2.
Okay. Maybe give the listeners sort of a history of your experience with this film series.
Yeah, God's Not Dead was a breakout hit for Pure Flix, a company started by David A.R. White, who's been kicking around in the Christian movie scene for decades now. He was even in like a high school movie that I tracked down back in like the early 90s, Christian high school movie that was shot on 16 millimeter probably or something. But then God's Not Dead, the original, with a budget of about $2 million starring Kevin Sorbo, just blew up. $60 million at the box office.
Wow.
Major breakout hit. And then Pure Flix since then has just been putting out tons of movies. God's Not Dead Part 2, which we saw at the Van Nuys Power Plant. But God's Not Dead was definitely superior to God's Not Dead 2.
Sure.
God's Not Dead 2. God's Not Dead 2 got bogged down in a courtroom drama with
Melissa Joan Hart.
Clarissa Explains It All.
Yes. And
Clarissa Explains God.
And this one, I won't give any spoilers on the cast, but it doesn't have much in terms of star power, other than David A.R. White, who's become a star
in his own right. I think now would be an appropriate time to say that these are quote-unquote faith-based films.
Mm-hmm, yes. Both of them so far, and this third one too, is based around the university setting and how God is being expelled from university and how we need to bring him back into the university and into your homeschooling curriculum.
Emily, do you have any vague recollections of God's Not Dead 2, or is the slate pretty clean by now?
It's pretty clean. What holds up is the audience around that movie and the couple that brought in the baby carriage.
I do remember
and
that.
There was no baby in the carriage.
We were speculating about this baby carriage. We're like, why are you bringing a baby in a carriage into the theater? The baby was silent, though, and we were like, interesting. It turns out it was like cans or something in there.
And then he had kind of a breakdown in the parking lot. He was taking a bunch of paper towels, and a car went by a little too quickly, and he hit the roof of the car and said, "In God's name, I revoke thee."
And his paper towels went everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
That's kind of the visual moment.
And everyone just stood there and stared.
Yeah. Like
jaws dropped.
Like the phones didn't even come out for that. Everybody was too awestruck by this man pilfering paper towels from a movie theater getting busted.
Yeah.
And still talking about the Lord as he grumbled and went back in to grab more paper towels.
That is actually what I remember most about God's Not Dead 2. So My slate's kind of clean. I'm going to go into this one with an open mind and a fairly open heart. I've been burned by Pure Flix before. The heavy-handedness just pummels you into submission. If it can pull out some new tricks, I'm going to praise it as such. I'll try to be as fair as possible coming out. But I expect a fucking beatdown.
Long dialogues.
Long dialogue, because it doesn't cost as much if it's just people sitting around shooting the breeze, rapping about God.
And the Bible's free, so you can just keep talking about that.
You can keep adapting that shit.
Yeah.
We're going to smoke a little of this Heavy Hitters wood-tipped vape cartridge.
Woo! Holy.
And we're going to feel the spirit within. We're going to go in. We're going to sit on those comfy recliners, and we're going to stay awake for you guys. We're going to come back, and we're going to report the facts. So, love and light to the lodge, and we'll see you on the other side.
Amen.
Well, let's focus on the good things right now. It's a cool, crisp night in Burbank. The air feels good on our skin after coming out of the embers of what we just witnessed. Mr. Bishke, before we sift through the rubble, will you do us the honor of reading the official synopsis?
Okay, this is the official synopsis from Pure Flix Entertainment on IMDb.
Straight from the source.
A church destroyed, a congregation silenced, a relationship shattered. Yet even in life's darkest valleys, a small flame can light the way toward healing and hope. After a deadly fire rips through St. James Church, Hadley University leaders use the tragedy to push the congregation off campus, forcing the church to defend its rights and bringing together estranged brothers for a reunion that opens up old wounds and forces them to address the issues that pulled them apart.
So there you have it.
So that's what happened.
The movie begins with our hero, as it were, David A.R. White, in prison for whatever he was doing at the end of part 2, which for some reason
He wasn't turning in his sermons to the government.
Something like it was some cooked up charges. But he gets out and he's chilling with his African buddy. And they keep talking about Jude, and they keep talking about waffles. And you're watching this, and you're like, we're just watching these dudes, like, amble about town. And I was like, something's got to happen. And they were walking towards a Prius, and I'm like, is that Prius just going to explode? Like, that's the feeling I got. Like, I'm like, something's got to happen here.
It was ominous.
And lo and behold, someone throws a brick through the window of the church and hits a gas line, and the church explodes. I knew there was an explosion coming. I just felt like you can feel it in a movie when something's about to blow up. I just got the wrong thing.
Killing David A.R. White's co-pastor from Africa.
He dies in the fire, and then we flash back needlessly 12 hours.
Very needlessly.
Like,
forgot about that when they finally cut up to it.
So you get to see who the kid is that threw the brick and how it was an accident.
And why he did it.
And how he's kind of like...
He was mad at his girlfriend for breaking up with him.
Choosing God over him, or...
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
She was a Christian, and he was kind of dabbling in quantum physics, and then
it was oil and water.
yeah.
So it must be noted that the female lead, who doesn't really have much to do in this, her character's name is Keaton.
Keaton, like Alex Keaton,
like Alex P. Keaton, and the guy who is kind of like a generic Taylor Lautner, the guy who threw the brick, he is like probably the best actor in the movie.
Yeah,
I don't know if
hands
that's
down,
I don't know if that's because he's crying the whole time or what.
He moved me.
But he could really cry.
I think he was the best actor, and his character's name was Adam Richardson. Very strange names. Like, you can't just go Richardson. It's Richard.
I noticed that,
Richardson. That's a minor quibble compared to what's going on.
Oh, so many quibbles.
David A.R. White is not the hero that we deserve. Like, because he's the producer, and I'm sure he has his fingers in all the screenwriting, directing pies. I'm sure he's all over it. He is front and center the entire time.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I can't help...
Godly.
Like, he looks like a bedraggled Muppet to me. Mm-hmm. And his mouth moves like a little bit too much. He'll say a word, and then his mouth will keep moving like a nanosecond after, which kind of adds to the Muppet.
Yeah,
like,
he doesn't have much emotional range. Like, his friend dies. I was expecting him to be like no makeup, kind of depressed, but he still had the same expression on his face. And I don't think he can cry
No.
on camera.
But
he can jog.
He does try, and he does jog.
Yeah.
And boy, does he ever in this movie. There are plenty of jogging montages where, in place of actual digging into what he's thinking about, he's on a passionate run.
Yep.
And those are shot with what appears to be a community college hand-me-down GoPro.
In one shot, it was SD.
It was SD blown the fuck up. And you can't do that anymore. Like, who looks at that and is like, yes, we succeeded with that. I don't know what they were thinking. But anyway, so the story, as it were, is the church is burnt to a crisp, but it's still standing. And David A.R. White, who plays Dave in it, very cute. His brother, played by John Corbett, comes to town, the big city lawyer, to help him out because the college wants to get rid of the church, just bulldoze it and make a student center.
The last Gods and I Did Too was boring. It got tied down in the courtroom. But what's been going on in the country since 2016 has really got David A.R. White's wheels turning as a Christian conservative.
Yeah.
And he's got a lot to draw on, and there's Charlottesville, there's the political atmosphere, there's Facebook, everyone yelling at everyone, and
he's tired of all the yelling.
Yeah,
he's tired.
But he's part of it too.
Yeah.
Because...
Do you think he knows he's part of it?
No.
Considering, can we name the two major cameos in the film?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course. So to set this up, like, this becomes a hot button issue. Like, some people want the church to be demolished. Some people are like, save the church, God's not dead. So that lends itself to a lot of online punditry with these dubious news
students
programs.
Don't have anything better to do than to get all heated up about this.
Yeah.
So that leads to some familiar Fox News faces.
And we have NRA spokeswoman Dana Loesch.
She's in it, playing herself.
And David A.R. White goes to her to take this whole lawsuit to the next level. She's, as nasty as ever.
She casts a pall over the proceedings.
And immediately, right-wing Facebook in the movie is all over it and throws a brick through the window of the chancellor.
Played by Ted McGinley from Married with Children.
Beloved Ted McGinley.
So when they retaliate and throw a brick through his window and he holds up the brick... I kept zoning out, making different movies in my head while I was watching this, and I'm like, he's got to retaliate against that frat, like it's Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah.
I'm like, you gotta summon that old alpha beta spirit and go get him. But then I'm like, wait, he looks like a fucking microwaved reptile now. Like those days are long gone.
I thought he looked pretty good. Especially next to David.
But he had like bloodshot eyes and like something had gone off. But anyway, Dana Loesch and Judge Pirro.
Jeanine Pirro is a very big cornerstone of the movie. And
she's yelling through the whole thing.
And she's yelling, we need to stop yelling at each other.
She yells that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Tatum O'Neal appears, who must have had an ankle bracelet where she couldn't leave the college administration offices for any scenes.
Yeah.
Like, she's in like 3 scenes.
Maybe 10 sentences at most.
Oh my God. Like, why? That's a paycheck. That's a walking, talking paycheck.
I know Tatum's on the level. I've been listening to her podcast. She's not like Christy Swanson. She's not in with right-wing folks or anything. She just needed a paycheck, and it's totally cool. And she does her job.
Well, I hope it was a high paycheck, because
I don't think so.
I don't think rough, and the lighting was awful.
She needs all she can get right now.
Maybe the lighting was the factor that made McGinley look like a lizard to me.
That could be.
Or it could be Illuminati, I don't know. But overall, I wrote down in my notes, because we were sitting in the back row, I was taking copious notes. I just wrote down inert in all caps. Like, the scenes just hang there.
Yeah.
Just like dust in an old musty church. Like, they show up, they don't do much, and then they're gone.
And where there could be a cute little punchline, it's just a pause.
And then they're out.
And then it
yes,
changes.
exactly. Exactly.
There's brotherly shenanigans, but...
And the brotherly shenanigans felt a little creepy to me. I don't know why. Like, I developed this over time because, again, I was bored out of my skull.
Yeah.
So I was creating different movies in my head. David A.R. White in the movie, he has this woman that for some reason is totally sprung on him and is, like, trying to get with him the whole time, like leaving him little notes and stuff. Right. And he couldn't care less.
Yeah, and she just disappears after a while.
Yeah, so...
I guess she was there at the end, but
she doesn't register because he doesn't give a shit about her.
No.
He loves his fucking brother.
Yeah, he does.
And
yeah.
he loves his brother so much. I'm like, you know what? I think he can only really relate to men. I bet he and Jude had some sort of sensual affair going on.
Well, that's if you watch the first film, it's just him and Jude in a car. Mm-hmm. Just hashing it out like what he is with his brother in this film.
Yeah. Like, I feel like when Jude died, it set him into a tailspin because not only was he repressed, but now the guy's dead and he has all these feelings that will never come to the fore because the guy's dead. So I was creating this backstory in my mind, and it made the back half of this movie slightly more tolerable. Mm-hmm. Kudos to me. Not the movie.
Yeah.
I made that up.
Yeah, you didn't share that with us to make it.
I'm sorry. We're not supposed to talk. You're not supposed to talk during movies, Emily.
Well, the back end of the movie, I thought, because I thought they were destined for the courtroom like they did in God's Not Dead Part 2.
Yes.
And
I was so scared. We
all
were groaning.
They avoided the courtroom, which...
Oh, my God.
Kudos to them.
Thank you.
For avoiding,
there's
government versus church courtroom
drama. Oh, my
drama.
God.
In the second half...
what even happens?
I was getting into the mindset of what's going on in right-wing Christian world right now. Like,
let us have it, dude.
Because you got Trump as your Christian leader right now, but then you've also got, these Cal Berkeley kids protesting, and then you got Charlottesville. I mean, there's a lot going on that David A.R. White is trying to work out.
David A.R. 15 White.
He's got Dana Loesch and Judge Jeanine, and then he's got Christ, and he's got a lot of
factors at play.
He's got a lot of factors that he's just got.
And what does he do? He goes jogging with an old GoPro drone.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of I started to feel the tension within him.
Sure.
In the last half.
But is that you doing my gay backstory?
Pretty much,
just
pretty much
grafting more to it than there actually is?
Yeah, but it's also me trying to hash out, like, where is the mainstream Christian mind right now that we're stuck with, like, Trump as our leader? And
well, I thought it was really, really interesting, too. The counter argument is addressed by Keaton herself when she says young people are leaving the church. The whole world knows what the church is against, but they have a hard time seeing what it's for. Holy shit, that line is in this movie?
Yeah.
You are pulling the rug out from under yourself. I guess good on you, for presenting both sides wholeheartedly. But he also admits, like, he and his brother are having a big blow up towards the end. And his brother's like, you don't know anything about what's going on in the world beyond your small town church. And David A.R. White is like, hell yeah. Basically.
Yep.
And
he was okay with it.
You're just kind of like, that's in your movie. Like,
no, yeah, I think David A.R. White was going through some stuff. I mean, he wrote his confusion into the movie.
Which I guess that's interesting. It's not really, they don't really make it cinematic.
And there's a fight.
No.
There's a fight over liberals and social justice warriors, and then this guy comes out with a big speech that says Jesus is the ultimate social justice warrior.
Right.
Yeah, the guy that was very certain about her uncertainty.
He's the lead, just so you know, he was the lead in the first God's Not Dead movie.
Who, in this movie, comes off as like a drowsy date rapist.
Yeah.
Like smug. Like
So
I
smug.
didn't
Yeah,
understand.
He was so certain about
No,
everything.
He barely moved his
he was-
face when he acted.
he
It was
was-
very strange.
Yeah.
He was the Christ figure. He knew exactly what to preach, and he said exactly what Christ would have said in that moment. But
It should be noted as well that during one of his famous jogging GoPro scenes, Keaton, who's also a swimmer, does an underwater scream
Oh,
that's
yes, very
it's
powerful.
almost identical.
it always works.
It's almost identical to the underwater scream in Mute, where the mute is underwater and lets it fly.
It always works. I thought that was like beautiful.
And I like when movies that we're exploring have direct, unexpected connections. Like this and Mute are light years apart, but
Yeah.
they share certain little points of DNA, which is great. I also found it entertaining that at one point a preacher is like, you know, I'm a black pastor in the deep South. I'm like, this is the deep South? Like, in what universe has this been presented as the deep South? This looks like Toronto proper.
But it's a good point, though, that another spot that David, allowed to be written in, where he was, saying that he was under attack, and
That's
that black
true.
man just checked him and said,
That's true.
"You want to talk to me? I could build you a church with how many bricks have been thrown through my window."
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
The persecution complex really came in when he's just like, when are Christians going to stand up and fight? And your eyes automatically roll. But that's what he wanted. He wrote his character to be conflicted at that point, saying all this shit. And then, the black pastor's just like, nah, man.
Comes and advocates the nonviolence. And
Yeah.
you gotta,
My struggle is actual.
Yeah.
And
You
here's
are
what
A.R.
Jesus
White.
would do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're struggling over some,
You're
property
struggling
on
because
State
you have
University.
so much pent up sexual
Yeah,
aggression.
Is he a virgin?
Emily leaned over and was like, "Is he supposed to be a virgin?"
'Cause
And
he's
that's a
been
good
single.
question.
Yeah,
he's.
never had any. I don't think he had any relationships in any of the other.
I
ones. I can't remember.
I wanted to reach out and just give him a holy hand job to just help him out. You know?
I want to make sure that David's not dead inside.
Yeah. Like, oh my God.
Can we address the end?
I
Yes.
think so.
Okay,
Please.
Yeah, let's not bore him to death.
So we have
Yeah.
to. Oops, we got.
We're near a Tesla
we got a
charging
Tesla
station.
charger.
The
guys
Tesla
there.
charging stations are full of people just vaping
Right.
like crazy.
What
this
to
is,
do
this
on
is
Easter
great.
night.
Okay, so we can't address the end of the film without addressing Charlottesville. So you have two sides. Okay, so you have the church. Nobody in the nation is saying we need to tear down churches on college campuses. But David A.R. White's saying that's happening. But what people are saying is we need to take down the Confederate monument. So here, it's like the Confederate monuments are a slippery slope to saying we need to tear down the church on college campuses.
Right.
So David A.R. White comes to his church, and everyone's protesting, and there's people saying, God's dead. I saw a sign that said, "Build that wall."
Build that wall.
And
I didn't see
you
that.
didn't see that? Yeah. And,
Wow.
and there's signs saying, there's more than one religion and all this different things. And there are people yelling, and they got their signs up. And David A.R. White, finally, in a moment of clarity, gets everyone to shut up in this kind of Charlottesville, like, about to, the violence is heating up. And he says, "I forgive, and I'm dropping the lawsuit, and you can tear down my church if you want to.
Because it's not about the building.
It's about you guys." And then they pass out candles.
They pass out
Right.
candles without wax guards, which I don't know why that bugged me so much. One girl had a wax guard, nobody else did.
Oh, okay.
A.R. White's
Oh,
hand was
lazy.
covered in wax. I'm like, this is... Anyway,
And
go on.
everyone puts down their signs.
It was so powerful.
And everyone lights candles. I thought they were going to go into Amazing Grace, but they didn't go that
They
far.
didn't go that far.
But it was a moment of grace, and everyone has their candle. And there was peace, finally, after all this building tension throughout the movie. And then David R. White's like, "I'm going to build a new church called St. Jude
For his
his friend.
slain lover.
for his slain lover." And
And Pierce, his brother, is up in his office, and he leaves a message and just wants to check in on his little brother. And
He says "little brother" like 500 times.
Yeah.
That's the drinking game.
yeah.
Is there a salad dragon scene in this?
I would say the second Dana Loesch shows up on screen.
It might be because that's
considering
intense.
we're in the midst of this NRA debate going on, and you just put Dana Loesch.
You put the specter of death in the middle of your movie
as a hero,
Gross.
championing David A.R. White. Like
that might be the most depressing Salad Dragon scene ever witnessed. I thought we were gonna get one because there's a moment where toward the end where A.R. White's at his squirreliest, and he goes into the burnt up church, and suddenly everything around him falls away with digital graphics, and the church becomes just a constellation of stars around him.
Yep.
And I was like, shit's about to get real, shit's about to get wicked wild. We might see Jesus here.
Yeah.
But whatever message that he got in that scene, they cut away and they cut out of it. Like right before it was about to get super wild.
Yeah.
So I was disappointed. I
didn't have the budget to do what he wanted.
They didn't. So I got Salad Dragon blue balls on that. So I think it's the Dana Loesch scene, unfortunately. This movie is drowsy and dull. It's basically Dr. Ben Carson the movie. If you could harness his lack of energy and spread it out across the cast, save for David A.R. White, because he is amped up through a lot of it. I think they wanted to stretch the budget by making everybody talk a little bit slower, let the scenes run longer than they should.
So many aerial shots.
And it doesn't feel like we saw a movie, to me. Mm-hmm. So I think we should go to the bones on this. Emily, since you are the guest, we go up to 4 bones.
Up to 4.
And down to woof.
And you can do half bones.
You can go half bones too. Woof is nothing.
I guess my bone would go somewhere between a woof and 1.
Okay, so half a bone?
You can do half bone.
Way more entertaining than the previous God's Not Dead 2. But
you didn't have that Melissa Joan Hart eye candy.
No, but I had
you
John Corbett.
You had the John Corbett. You had Ted McGinley, and you had David A.R. White, and they all were tussling on the front lawn at one point.
Yeah.
And you were like, "Yeah, that's exciting."
It was. That was the most exciting part. And for the most part, really poorly done, but very authentic extras. Whenever it gets boring, I just look for the extras, and there were some doozies.
There was some great soccer skills on display in the quad.
Yeah.
I was also watching pretty much anybody but fucking A.R. White's mullet through the whole thing. And at the end, when they're lighting the candles, if you look in the background, a lot of them are going out, which is also, I think, unintended. It's a little symbolism there.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh, we lost a couple. Mr. Bishke, what do you got? I think you bring the most history and the most context.
Having seen them all, okay, let me just give my bone count real quick on everyone.
Yeah, right.
God's Not Dead is definitely 2 bone.
Okay.
God's Not Dead 2 was definitely 1 bone, just got stuck in the drama. But this is 1.5 bone. This was better than God's Not Dead 2. The events of the last 2 years, I got to see what David A.R. White's been going through with, there's a lot of Facebook going on, and he's trying to work out this anger and frustration.
You could just go to church and bring a friend.
Well, we're going to go to Bieber's church pretty soon.
Okay. Yeah, we are actually. Yeah. Okay. Emily, you read my mind. Half a bone. The majority of it was exposed properly. You could see images moving. John Corbett was having fun with his weird role. There's a scene where he just randomly throws a dart at one of David A.R. White's paintings in his living room. This painting of a frog. And David A.R. White's like, what are you doing? It's like, it's an ugly painting. He's having fun with it.
Yeah, he did have fun.
I enjoyed his performance. But, God, please, why? Why is your name on this? It's not even a movie. It's a few think pieces strung together and presented as such. And I can't go over a half a bone for that. I doubt anybody in the lodge is going to seek this out and see it. So we did truly martyr ourselves on this Easter, and you're welcome. I don't recommend that anybody go anywhere near this. I think you can let it live and die with the sound of our voices. Maybe there is going to be a movie that takes these themes and really does something provocative and interesting, but this ain't it. And we'll see you at the lodge, and you'll hear us on the next Lodgecast. Until then, love you.
God bless.
Let's go get some waffles.